Okay, good evening to all the participants who are all involved in this Zoom meeting regarding our oxygen therapy and oxygen delivery devices. And we are all in the COVID-19 pandemic era, and most of the patients in the ICU are starving for oxygen to expand our life. And it is the need of the hour to know about the oxygen therapy and oxygen delivery systems. And we can go to the slides. And regarding this oxygen is concerned, it is a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas, and that is essential for the body to function properly and to survive. And regarding oxygen therapy, what is oxygen therapy? And it is oxygen therapy, for the terminology to understand, it's the administration of oxygen at a concentration of pressure greater than found in the environment. Actually, in the environment, the oxygen saturation is 21 percentage, and we have to give the oxygen to the patient more than 21%, and this is called oxygen therapy. And oxygen therapy is the key treatment in the respiratory care. And before going to the subject proper, we have to remember about these terminologies first, because so many kinds of, specialties of doctors are present here. The word FiO2 stands for the concentration of oxygen delivered to the patient. Otherwise, that is fractional inspired oxygen concentration. And PaO2, that is called alveolar oxygen tension. And there is the P small aO2, that is the oxygen tension in the arteries. And there is a AA gradient, that is called, that is the oxygen pressure tension. That is the tension present between the alveoli and the artery. So alveolar arterial gradient. And from this, in our atmosphere, we are having this 21% of oxygen, having this oxygen tension, partial pressure of oxygen in the atmosphere of 160, and from this to the trachea, and then to the alveoli, 105, and then from this alveoli to the artery, the oxygen tension is reduced to 100. And then from this artery to capillary, it is reduced to 45 millimeter of mercury. And then finally it reaches the cell with a concentration with the oxygen tension of only 5 millimeter of mercury. So we are having this 160 millimeter of mercury of oxygen in the atmospheric air. When it is reaching the cells, that is a cellular respiration for the cells, for the cellular respiration, the oxygen tension in the cells, in the mitochondria, is roughly about 1 to 5 millimeter of mercury. That is the posture point with this 21%. Below this oxygen tension inside the cell, it is not possible to produce the aerobic metabolism, and the metabolism is switched over to anaerobic metabolism, lead on to severe metabolic acidosis and the patient going for shock. And regarding these definitions, before going to the oxygen therapy, what do you mean by hypoxia and what do you mean by hypoxia? Both these terminologies are same or not different? So the hypoxia is the low oxygen tension present inside the cells. So it is a condition in which the body or a region of the body is deprived of adequate oxygen supply at the tissue level. And this hypoxemia, that means the partial pressure oxygen tension inside the arteries, that is normally about in the healthy adults, it is roughly about 100 millimeter of mercury, roughly 97 to 100 millimeter of mercury. And when will you say if this patient is having hypoxemia, low oxygen tension in the arteries? If the oxygen tension in the arteries is less than 80 millimeter of mercury, we call this situation as hypoxemia. So hypoxia at the cellular level and hypoxemia at vessel, I mean in the arteries. And if we say this PaO2, arterial oxygen tension less than 80, and this is an ABG value, you have to get the arterial bed sample and measure the arterial tension in oxygen tension in the blood sample, arterial blood sample by ABG analysis. But simply this oxygen tension, roughly by this, simply we can have it in the pulse oximeter probe as SpO2, that is less than 95%. So the pulse oximeter shows that the saturation of 95%, and we can label this patient as patient is having hypoxemia. So while we grade this hypoxia in a patient, it's a rule of thumb. Normal tension is 80 to 100 millimeter of mercury. And if we say this, the tension reduced to 60 to 80, we can call this as a mild hypoxemia. And if it is 40 to 60 millimeter of mercury, we can call this as an moderate hypoxemia. And if the arterial oxygen tension in the arteries is less than 40 millimeter of mercury, and that is a very severe, very worst situation, we can label this patient as severe hypoxemia. And we can saturation and tension, oxygen tension, I will correlate with this. Come to this last two, the shaded areas, that is the oxygen tension, PO2 in millimeter of mercury, it is 80 to 100. And what happens, this saturation in the y-axis, it is roughly about 100%. And 80 to 100, the oxygen saturation of 100% is maintained. And if it is reduced to 80 and to 60, there is a mild hypoxemia where the oxygen tension is 90. So we can label this patient as hypoxemia of less than 95% of saturation, and the patient is suffering from mild hypoxemia. If it is less than 60 to 40, at 40, what may be the saturation? It is roughly about 72%. And less than 40, it is an very severe, the saturation will come to the steep portion of the oxygen dissociation curve, and we can call this patient and a very low saturation, hemoglobin saturation, that is displayed in our oxygen pulse oximeter as less than 70%, and we have to give definite oxygen therapy by devices to the patient, otherwise the patient will die. And this is the situation where you can correlate this arterial oxygen tension and this saturation, SaO2 arterial oxygen tension. Normal is in 80 to 100, and all the patients shows more than 95% of saturation. And in mild hypoxemia, and 90 to 94% of saturation. On moderate hypoxemia, 75 to 89% of saturation. And severe hypoxemia, it is less than 75% of the saturation. And we can grade this. What are the types of hypoxemia? We have to know. We are going to the topic proper. There are 4 types. This hypoxia occur in 4 situations. That is, one is called hypoxic hypoxemia, that is reduced supply of oxygen from lung to the arteries, capillaries, pulmonary capillaries. And that is called hypoxic hypoxemia. There is an oxygen source is very less. The source is the oxygen source is our lungs. So source is hypoxic. We can label this situation as hypoxic hypoxia. And next one is the anemic hypoxia. In hemoglobin is reduced or functionally impaired and the PO2 is normal. We can call this situation as anemic hypoxia because hemoglobin is the only cells in our body, it is in the blood, to carry oxygen and supply to the tissues. Suppose if the hemoglobin present in our body is very low, so hypoxemia occur. So we can call the situation as anemic hypoxia. And next one is the stagnant hypoxia. In this situation, where there is a transport problem. So hemoglobin is present in the red blood cells, that is circulated to the in the circulatory system, cardiovascular system, and reach the cells. And if there is circulation is stagnant because of low output failures or any shock states, hypoxia will develop. We can label this situation as stagnant hypoxia. And next is at the tissue level. And the tissue level, the tissue organelle using this oxygen is the mitochondria. So mitochondria is not able to utilize this oxygen, and this situation is called histotoxic hypoxemia. And now we are going to the proper oxygen delivery devices. So far else, we are talking about this basic physiology and physics regarding this oxygen is concerned. Now we go to the topic proper of oxygen delivery devices. And oxygen delivery devices, we can deliver the oxygen by two mechanisms. One is the isobaric oxygen therapy and hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Isobaric means we are supplying the oxygen to the body at the atmospheric level, at the atmospheric pressure. What is the atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeter of mercury. We are delivering the oxygen in a certain FiO2 percentage concentration at the pressure of atmosphere. If you are supplying this oxygen to the body more than the pressure of atmosphere, more than 1 atmosphere, that is 2 atmosphere or 3 atmosphere, we can call this situation as hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is very rarely given and not given in all centers. It is given in specialized centers only, and we should have the specialized hyperbaric oxygen chambers are needed. And that is the scope of this lecture today regarding this hyperbaric oxygen therapy is concerned. And we have to discuss about this isobaric or normobaric oxygen therapy, which is the need of the hour today because we are in the COVID-19 pandemic era. With this isobaric, the devices are divided into variable performance and fixed performance devices. And another device is called high flow systems and other specialized systems. We can go to this. What do you mean by variable performance and what do you mean by, these are the terminologies you have to understood before using the device is concerned. Fixed performance devices. The fixed performance devices, here the devices will deliver fixed concentration of oxygen, irrespective of the minute volume or the peak inspiratory flow of the patient. If we set at the FiO2 oxygen concentration of 60% of the patient, whatever may be the respiration, whatever be the minute volume of the patient, the device will deliver constantly your set FiO2 concentration to the patient. These are the devices, venturi mask, a mask with a reservoir bag or non-breathing valve, we are going to discuss about later. And this variable performance devices, the FiO2 what you are set in is not assured. The FiO2 delivered to the patient will vary according to the minute ventilation of the patient and in peak inspiratory flow rate of the patient and the respiratory rate of the patient. And respiratory rate differs the FiO2 delivered to the patient, even though we are giving set flow rate of oxygen to the patient. And that is the basic difference between these fixed performance devices and variable performance devices. And this low flow and high flow, which I have told earlier, these are all the devices for low flow. There is a nasal cannula or face mask. All these variable performance devices, we cannot assure the FiO2 delivered to the patient. Non-rebreather mask or partial rebreather mask, face stent, nasal catheter, transtracheal catheter. These are all the devices we are using very commonly to the patient, we are going to discuss about this each devices in a small detail. And this in other side, these are high flow fixed performance devices. This is a high flow nasal cannula, mechanical ventilators, and hyperbaric oxygen chambers, venturi mask, tracheostomy collar, and NABU bag. These are all the devices that will produce fixed oxygen concentration to the patient. And these are all the parts of the oxygen delivery devices. For the device, these should have all these parts. One is the source of oxygen supply, that is most important, that should be present. There is an oxygen flow control, that is important. These are all not shown in this picture. And there is a connecting tube for the device from the source to the device. And there is a reservoir bag, and it's a patient attachment, and the expired gases to vent out, and expired gas facility, and there is a humidification, and there should be oxygen monitoring. All these should be present when you are giving this oxygen delivery to the patient, hypoxemic patient. And we can classify the devices according to the load, according to the supplemental oxygen, according to the oxygen with support or without support. We can classify these devices into low dependency, medium dependency, and high dependency in other sort of classification. And low dependency, the supplemental oxygen alone is sufficient to cut hypoxemia. For a simple mild hypoxemic patient, which I have told earlier in the classification, in grade 1 hypoxemia, and medium devices, and that is moderate hypoxemic patients. And when there is with the supplemental of oxygen, some degree of respiratory assistance is needed for this patient to manage this maintaining the normal SpO2 level. That is the supplemental devices or the CPAP, continuous CPAP mask, and high dependency devices, and the patient cannot be able to maintain the saturation. They need definitely the respiratory support. So that is called NIPP, intensive intermittent positive pressure ventilation, otherwise called invasive ventilation or non-invasive ventilation devices. Extra devices are needed to deliver oxygen to these patients. And these are all the factors that will affect this: the concentration of oxygen delivered to the patient, oxygen flow rate, this mask volume, quality of mask fit, and area of the folds. And these patient factors are and the patient's respiratory rate, the patient's tidal volume, the patient's peak inspirative flow rate, and the presence of humidifiers present in this device, all will alter the concentration of oxygen delivered to the patient, that is FiO2. And first one is the nasal prongs. This is the nasal prongs. These are the prongs which commonly used oxygen delivery device in mild hypoxemic patient. It is a standard device for low flow oxygen therapy. It delivers oxygen to the nasopharynx. You can have the flow rate of 1 to 6 liters per minute. And here we cannot able to meet out the patient's minute ventilation peak inspirative flow rate. So large fraction of the air is mixed with this cannula, and thereby the oxygen concentration delivered to the patient is very low. So it can be only used in mild hypoxemic patients. And if you set this flow rate of this nasal cannula, if you set 1 liter, that delivers the FiO2 of 24%. If it 2 liters, it delivers the FiO2 of 28%. If it is 3 liters, delivers the FiO2 of 32%. If it is 4 liters, it delivers the FiO2 of 36%. And it is 5 liters, it delivers the FiO2 of 40%. And the flow rate is 6 liters of 100% oxygen delivered through its nasal cannula. The patient is getting only 44% of oxygen to the patient concentration. So with a low flow device, we cannot increase this more than 6 liters. But if we add more than 6 liters, it is very discomfort to the patient, and the patient cannot tolerate with this cannula. So the maximum FiO2 delivered for air, it is 21%. From here it is 1 liter to 6 liters, having this FiO2 of 24 to 44% delivered to the patient. And the advantages for this nasal cannula is client can able to talk and eat and with oxygen in the place. It can be easily used in the home setting also. It is very safe and simple and easily tolerated, but it delivers very low concentration. But disadvantages, we cannot able to not able to use in nasal obstruction, and drying of mucous membranes are present if we use this flow liter of more than 4 liters per minute, and it can discharge very easily, and it will cause sometimes skin irritation or breakdown, and not good for mouth breathers, and the patient breathing affects the FiO2 concentration delivered to the patient. And next one is the face mask. There is a very simple face mask or partial rebreather mask or non-rebreather mask. These are all the variety of masks available, and this Venturi mask. These are all the face mask available. We can go one by one. First is the simple face mask. It is having all these parts. This is a metal piece, confirm the shape of the nose for the grip, encourage the nose, and there are some exhalation support is available. The strap is there for anchorage with the head, and there is an oxygen source tubing to the mask, and it has the reservoir because the inside the mask this oxygen is present inside it, having this reservoir of 100 to 200 ml, and delivers the oxygen at the flow rate of 5 to 10 liters per minute, and minimum of 5 liters per minute is needed to clear the exhaled gases from the mask. So exhalation ports on the side allows room air to be inhaled, and we can having the maximum concentration of oxygen delivered to the patient is 60%. 60% of FiO2 can be delivered by using this simple standard face mask. And next is the what I have told earlier, this one. So the disadvantages, what are the disadvantages for this face mask? It's a tight seal around the face. Otherwise, there is a leak will occur, and FiO2 delivered to the patient is very much reduced. And this tight seal is a discomfort to the patient sometimes. You cannot tolerate all the patient, and some of the patients are phobic to this mask applied over the face. Difficult to keep the mask in position over the nose and mouth for all the time. This is the disadvantage. And there is a potential skin breakdown with if you tightly anchored with the face, and will produce skin irritation, skin breakdowns due to pressure and moisture applied over the prolonged period of time, and the patient can be uncomfortable for eating and talking, and expensive with the nasal tube. It is somewhat costlier than this nasal tube. And this is a nasal mask. You can apply this mask over the nose, not the cannula. Here the mask is the hybrid of nasal cannula and the face mask, and supplemental oxygen given equivalent to nasal cannula under low flow situations. And the advantage is patient comfort, do not produce sores or sores around the nares, and dry oxygen is not jetted here. That is the major advantage. So the tolerance with this nasal mask is good, but not very commonly used. It is not commonly available in all places also. And next one is the mask with the reservoir bags. So for else we are having the talking about this mask only. We can adding reservoir bags along with the mask. Addition of reservoir bag, the standard face mask, increasing the capacity of 600 to 1000 ml. So if the reservoir is kept inflated, the patient will primarily draw air from the bag also. And this is first one is the partial rebreathing mask. Rebreathing mask means the patient expired air can get inside the mask, also. So there is some possibility of the expired air will be rebreathed inside, thereby that will reduce the oxygen concentration delivered to the patient. FiO2 delivered to the patient may be reduced. So the bag collects some of the patient's exhaled air. So most of the air is patient getting from the reservoir bag, and which is fully saturated with 100% oxygen, and it is used to deliver oxygen concentration up to 80%. And this is the reservoir bag attached to the face mask. So we can having this flow rate of minimum of 6 liters is needed. Again, maximum up to 15 liters. And there are ports in the reservoir bag where the remaining exhaled air exits through the vents also. But some of the air from this mask area can get inside the reservoir bag, that will be rebreathed again for the next inhalation. Okay. So next one is where it is the non-breather mask. Here we are having these valves in the exhalation ports and also in the reservoir bags also, in the mask and the reservoir bag also. Thereby the exhaled air cannot get inside the mask. We can prevent the expired air, that is more concentration of CO2 that cannot be mixed along with this non-breather valves present in this non-breather mask. There are only valves are present here between the mask and the reservoir bag to prevent carbon dioxide buildup. So we are getting almost highest concentration of oxygen which is present in the reservoir bag during every act of inspiration. So FiO2 delivered to the patient is 95 to 100% with the highest flow rate of 10 to 15 liters per minute. So you can use this non-rebreather mask in a severe hypoxemic patient which deliver the highest oxygen concentration. So I have already told here the expiratory ports having the flap valves, that is the one-way valves, the between the reservoir bag and the mask. So theoretically we can achieve FiO2 100%, but exactly it is not 100% delivered to the patient. Maximum of with the leaks around the mask and all those things, and not exact proper functioning of this expiratory one-way valves, we can achieve this FiO2 concentration of 80 to 90% with using this non-rebreather mask which is available. And the advantage is higher concentration of oxygen is delivered. And what is the disadvantages? It is impractical for long-term therapy. So there is every chance for malfunctioning of the valves may occur that lead on to say carbon dioxide built up, which is the expired air will be mixed inside this reservoir bag and also in the mask. Sometimes it will cause suffocation and it is expensive, and you cannot apply this mask over a prolonged period of time. It will produce suffocation and it is somewhat expensive than other masks, and we cannot use this type of mask as an nebulizer along with the nebulizer. We cannot do a bronchodilator therapy if the patient is needed. We can take out and we can use this simple mask for bronchodilator therapy is needed for this patient. And next one is the Venturi mask. There are so many color-coded masks, devices are available, and different color-coded devices deliver a different oxygen concentration by using this Venturi principle. And if you use this blue device, you can having this FiO2 of 24%, and white device you can use this 0.28%, 28% of FiO2 delivered. And use this orange device, you can use this 31% of FiO2 delivered. And if you use this yellow device, 38% of FiO2 is delivered. And red device, you can use this 40% of FiO2 delivered. And if you use this green device, it is 60% of FiO2 is delivered. Maximum with these Venturi devices, maximum FiO2 delivered to the patient is 60%. Beyond that, we cannot increase the FiO2 by using these devices, but that fixed concentration, it is a fixed high performance devices. They deliver the FiO2 of 60%, irresponsive to the surroundings. I mean, the patient's respiratory rate or ventilation or this um, respiratory rate of the patient, the effort to deliver to the patient is very constant. That is the most advantage of using this Venturi mask is concerned. Your internet connection unstable. So here is an whiteboard tubing. It is a color-coded jet adapters are present here and delivers extra percentage of oxygen regardless of tidal volume of the patient. And this oxygen concentration vary from 24 to 60 percentage and maximum of 10 liter per minute. And you can use for this device for COPD patient where 100% oxygen is not needed. That is detrimental to the COPD patient. And we can maintain the FiO2 at a constant flow. And how this device delivers the fixed concentration of oxygen to the patient is by this Bernoulli's effect and this Venturi principle. Here it's a driving fluid A, that is an gases passing through this wide bore cannula which has an abrupt narrow ending here. The whatever the pressure, the driving pressure of the fluid A, that will be drastically reduced if it reaches the narrow compartment, and the pressure of the narrow compartment will become very less, not even atmospheric. It is less than the atmospheric, subatmospheric, and it will draw the air from the environment, and it mixes with the air, mixes with this oxygen and delivers the constant. The mixture is very constant and delivers the fixed concentration of oxygen to the patient. That is the Bernoulli's effect and Venturi's principle. And so there is an entrainment of air, fixed volume of entrainment of air from the environment along with the fixed concentration of oxygen delivers fixed FiO2 concentration delivered to the patient. These are all the schematic diagrams. So air entrained when this fluid, I mean the gas reaches this narrow point, the pressure here is less than atmospheric and the pressure become very negative. So there is a potential energy was lost. Potential energy was lost and drastic increase in kinetic energy. That is the Bernoulli's theorem. And this drastic potential energy is decreased and the pressure is negative, but the velocity is extraordinarily high. And this negative pressure and high velocity and that sucks the air from the atmosphere at a fixed rate, and that mixes 100% oxygen and the air and delivers the fixed concentration of oxygen to the patient. Thereby, these Venturi devices delivers fixed fractional oxygen concentration to the patient. And what I have told earlier, that is written in this slide. And the advantages I have already told: constant FiO2, desirable in COPD patient with chronic CO2 retention, and we can increase FiO2 further, increase in arterial PCO2, but the disadvantage is inability to deliver higher concentration of inhaled oxygen. It is not possible, and we cannot increase the FiO2 concentration. Oxygen concentration delivered to the patient is not more than 60%. And the next device is the oxygen hood, usually used in the pediatric population. And the oxygen hood is used for the babies who can breathe on their own but still need extra oxygen. And the hood is the plastic dome or a box with a warm, moist oxygen inside. The hood is placed over the baby's head. And next one is the oxygen tent. It is also for the babies also. Here the whole body is covered, made up of plastic material. You can able to see through what is happening to the baby, and it can envelop the patient's bed with end sections and held in place by mattress, and ensures that the tent is airtight. Otherwise, air dilution will occur and reduce the concentration present inside the tent. And this enclosure has a side opening with a zipper also. You can open on for any emergencies for the baby. And with this zipper, you can open and can do some interventions to the babies also. And next one is the face tent. In between this, it is a somewhat organized. And replace the oxygen mask when masks are poorly tolerated by the patient. And here, this face tent, we can deliver the oxygen of 21 to 50% depending on the patient's breathing. And for patient, often used for humidification as well as for delivery in patients who do not like the claustrophobic feeling and associated with the more traditional masks. Because the patient are so much comfortable with this face tent is concerned. And it's an AMBU bag. AMBU means artificial manual breathing unit. This is a bag wall mask ventilation. It is a handheld device commonly used to provide positive pressure ventilation to the patients are not breathing or not breathing adequately. We can deliver active intermittent positive pressure ventilation by this AMBU bag, especially in the patient is in hyperventilation and patient with sudden cardiac arrest. There is no respiration. You can use this AMBU bag to give intermittent positive pressure ventilation to the patient for resuscitation. And in patient in a very shock state, we can use this AMBU bag ventilation. And tracheostomy collar, it is injected directly into the trachea. In the tracheostomy stoma, it is indicated for chronic oxygen therapy is needed. And oxygen at the flow rate of 8 to 10 liters per minute, and it provides accurate FiO2. And it provides very good humidity also. And it is more comfortable and it is more efficient for the patient also. And next one is a TPS device. We can use this in an intubated patient. Before extubation, we can give trial spontaneous respiration with the patient to assess the ventilatory effort of the patient and to patient can able to maintain the saturation or not. Just before, it is one of the weaning mode for oxygen therapy. The TPS is a T-shaped adapter used to provide oxygen to either the endotracheal tube or a tracheostomy tube with a flow rate of 10 liters per minute. It can also be provided, flow can also be provided by the ventilator or by the oxygen source. Used to provide high enough to flow rate to ensure that there is a minimal amount of entrained room air. And the next one is a transtracheal catheter. We can insert this catheter inside the trachea. It is a thin polytetrafluoroethylene catheter inserted surgically with a guide wire, but with the second and third rings, and it gives the FiO2 of 32 to 35%. We can give the very minimal flow, half liter to 4 liters, low variable. It doesn't need to humidifier and increase atmospheric reservoir. And the advantages is lower oxygen use and low cost, eliminates nasal and skin irritation, and better compliance, increase the exercise tolerance, increase the mobility. Disadvantage, this is very costly and will produce surgical complications and will injure the trachea, will produce infection, will produce mucus plugging. These are all the disadvantages of this tracheal cannula. And this is a high flow nasal oxygen cannula. It is a recent HFNO. Recently, we are using this machine in our COVID ICU. We have taken detailed class regarding this high flow nasal oxygen, which is available in the YouTube. You can go and see the video session, which is present inside the YouTube. But shortly, you can see the newest technique of oxygen delivery using heated temperature and humidified gas. That is, the gas delivered to the patient is supersaturated, and oxygen flow rate of 40 to 60 liters per minute can be delivered through wide bore nasal prongs without discomfort and mucosal injury, and allows adjustments for flow rate of 1 to 40 liters per minute and FiO2 of 21 to 100%. and temperature of 37 degrees centigrade. It is used both in, it doesn't need any ICU setup. You can use this machine in the ward and the critical care ICU also for respiratory failure management. But we can use this only in type 1 respiratory failure, that is hypoxemic respiratory failure only. We cannot use this for an ventilatory failure, where there is an CO2 accumulation is occur in ventilatory failure. CO2 elimination is the problem in ventilatory failure. We cannot use these situations. Only it can be used in hypoxemic respiratory failure, which is the commonest finding in COVID-19 respiratory failure. So this machine is much more useful for COVID-19 respiratory failure, very commonly used in almost all COVID ICUs here. It provides the valuable triad of humidity and very high FiO2. It is nearly about 95 to 98%, even 100% FiO2 can be delivered to the patient, and it will improve the patient's compliance and comfort also. So this is the machine, the flow meter, nasal interface, and this is the humidifier. It is inspirated tubings, and this is a nasal interface. It's a wide bore nasal cannula that can be delivered at the highest flow rate of more than 50 liters per minute. This is an oxygen concentrator, not commonly used nowadays here, but it doesn't need any oxygen source. The oxygen source is the environment. It's taking air from the surroundings and compressing the air, and cooling mechanisms keep the concentrator from overheating, and removes the nitrogen via filter sieve beds present here, thereby adjusting the delivery settings, and they can increase the concentration of oxygen that can be delivered to the patient. And the FiO2 cannot be more than 50% by using this oxygen concentration. Maximum the oxygen concentration delivered by this oxygen concentrator is roughly about 40%, 40 to 45% with this oxygen concentrator. Maximum of 50% FiO2. And this is an hyperbaric oxygen therapy. There is a chamber is there, and this oxygen inside the chamber is more than the atmospheric pressure, more than 2 to 3 atmospheric pressure. Pressurized oxygen chambers. It is only in specialized centers. It is used in specialized situation also, not routinely indicated. It is with carbon monoxide poisoning, and in severe burns and with tissue infections and decompression sickness, bends. These are all the situations you can use this oxygen therapy more than the atmospheric pressure. And this is the scope of his lecture today. And there are so many complications of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, produce barotrauma to the ear, nose, sinuses, lungs, and produce oxygen toxicity, and it will produce convulsions, and it will produce reversible visual changes also. These are all the points regarding this hyperbaric oxygen therapy for the completion shape of this oxygen delivery devices is concerned. And what are the complications associated with oxygen therapy? So oxygen therapy will produce this, it is very good for saving the life of the patient, and at the same time it will produce complication also, because oxygen is a drug. This is not only a fuel, it is a drug. So any drug has its own side effects. So the oxygen will produce drying of mucous membranes and skin breakdown, and oxygen toxicity we'll discuss about later, and suppression of ventilation lead on to increase in CO2 narcosis in a patient with ventilatory failure, lead on to CO2 narcosis, that is called hypercarbia, and potential of contamination of and infection to the patient, and retrolental fibroplasia is the old terminology. Now new terminology is retinopathy of newborn. It will produce retrolental changes, and this oxygen therapy will produce absorption atelectasis, and it is a very combustible gas. So every chance for fire hazard when you are using this oxygen more than 21% is in anywhere else. So what is oxygen toxicity? The toxicity occurs when the highest oxygen concentration is delivered to the patient for a prolonged period of time. So the concentration over the 50% for 24 to 48 hours cause potential pathological changes. The oxygen delivery can occur with a FiO2 of 60% longer than 36 hours, and this concentration of more than 80% for more than 24 hours, and this concentration of 100% for more than 12 hours, all lead on to sorry, all those things lead on to oxygen toxicity. So 100% oxygen you continuously for more than 12 hours, that lead on to oxygen toxicity. So the primarily affects the lungs and then the CNS. In the lungs, it will affect in the CNS, it Paul Bert effect. It will produce tremors, twitchings, and convulsions. When you give oxygen for more than 1 atmosphere, what is the atmospheric pressure of oxygen? Atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeter of mercury. If you give this oxygen in a pressurized chambers to the patient at more than 1 atmosphere, more than 76 millimeter of mercury, usually in the pressurized chamber they are giving 2 to 3 atmospheres, and they will produce sometimes TNS toxicity. You should be observe the patient very carefully. And there will pulmonary complications also. It will produce acute tracheobronchitis and will cause cough and substernal pain and produce ARDS like effects. The physiological response to exposure to 100% oxygen is for 0 to 12 hours, not much of pain, no problem at all. But if it is more than 12 hours, you can reduce the oxygen concentration definitely. It will produce substernal pain and tracheobronchitis, and that will decrease the vital capacity of the patient, and it will reduce the lung compliance, and that will increase the arteriolar oxygen gradient that lead on to hypoxemia even though 100% oxygen is delivered, and decreasing the exercise PO2 and decreasing the diffusion capacity. Alveolar membranes are damaged because of the high oxygen therapy, oxygen toxicity. By generation of the free radicals, superoxide, hydrogen peroxide, and singlet oxygen. These are all the antioxidants, ineffective and high oxygen. These are all the active oxygen gradients, free radicals of oxygen that are all produced during 100% oxygen for a prolonged period, that itself damage the lung. That is called Lorentz-Smith effect. It will produce cytotoxicity, damage the capillary endothelium, interstitial edema, thickened alveolar membrane due to inflammation, and that will produce barrier in the exchange of oxygen from the alveoli to the capillaries, pulmonary capillaries, and this reaction continues lead on to pulmonary fibrosis and pulmonary hypertension, and finally lead on to ARDS and death of the patient. So pulmonary toxicity, oxygen is a double-edged sword. You can use it very carefully. That is the most important point that I wish to, that is the message to you. So our goal is to use the lowest possible FiO2 with adequate oxygenation. That is the moral of this lecture today. The goal is use lowest possible FiO2 with adequate oxygenation. You have to remember this one point. They will be very happy if we are hearing this lecture today. So it will produce the depression of ventilation also in COPD patients, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease patient, because the drive of the ventilation is by this increasing the PaO2, and if you give more oxygen, that will reduce the PaO2, increasing the PaO2, I mean oxygen tension, that will suppress the ventilatory drive and lead on to respiratory depression. So in COPD patient, if you give oxygen therapy, you should be extra careful and watching this CO2 levels, and whether watching clinically also whether the patient is having any hypoventilation or not due to our oxygen therapy. And next one is the absorption atelectasis. This is one of the complications of oxygen therapy. You see this picture, there is an A is an underventilated alveoli and this B is an ventilated alveoli. In contrast, the oxygen is extremely soluble in blood. So whatever the oxygen present in the, this poorly ventilated alveoli, with this 100% oxygenation, all the nitrogen present in the alveoli will be washed out. What is present here in this underventilated alveoli is only oxygen that will be easily absorbed, and this alveoli going for collapse because of the nitrogen washout. Because nitrogen present in the lungs also essential for maintaining the patency of the alveoli. So because of this nitrogen washout, the alveoli going for collapse lead on to atelectasis. That is why it is called absorption atelectasis. There is the side effect produced when you give this 100% oxygen for a prolonged period of time. So remember this terminology, absorption atelectasis for a prolonged oxygen therapy. And this retinopathy of prematurity, I don't want to go into the details. These prolonged periods will produce retinopathy of the newborns. So in the newborn ICUs, they are not giving 100% oxygen to any newborn is concerned. If they give newborn, they are giving this for a couple of hours or minutes, and they switch over to reduce the FiO2 to less than 50%, gradually letting down and switching over to 50 or 40% according to the SpO2 levels achieved. And it is already told there a fire hazard is there whether you use this high FiO2, because it is not an inflammable gas oxygen but aids in combustion oxygen. So very careful, use this scavenging system and avoid use of outdated equipment such as aluminum gas regulators. So fire prevention protocol should be followed, especially during in hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It is a very dangerous scenario. Even though in ICUs or any hospital setup, when oxygen therapy is available there should be definite indication for fire safety measures, and equipment should be always available inside the hospital or in ICUs. So precautions, coming to this, we are going to the end of the session today. Precautions are ensure that humidification system is essential when you are giving this oxygen, otherwise the dry air will be get inside, produce so much of irritation, and the secretion will become thick and tenacious, and they will lead on to airway obstruction. So give oxygen along with humidification, that is important. Never allow dry gas insufflation into the patient, and you should always inspect skin during oxygen therapy for skin integrity impairment. The breach is a prompt application of barrier creams and cushions should be available when you get this strap, and administer minimal amount of oxygen needed to achieve the arterial oxygen tension of 60 to 80. That is enough initially, and administer the oxygen only when required and use them for a shortest period of time. Never use for a prolonged period of time. If it is not needed, never use it. And utilize the PEEP and CPAP when oxygen therapy is needed, and administer oxygen at low flows concentration levels. Closely monitor the patient's respiratory status, and follow manufacturer's policy on care and institution policy for infection control in oxygen therapy units. And then oxygen is a therapeutic gas that must be prescribed and adjusted only with healthcare providers. Place oxygen in use in signboard on the patient's door in the patient's room. If using oxygen at home, place a sign on the door of the house, and no smoking is permitted inside the premises when oxygen is flowing on. And documentation in the case sheet is most important. Date and time of oxygen started, you have to do it, and you can write it down in the method of oxygen delivery and oxygen concentration and the flow rate and patient observation. Add oronasal care to the nursing care plan. So oxygen is a drug. You have to prescribe it. Must be written legibly on the doctor, and the prescription should be dated by the doctor, And doctor must indicate the duration of oxygen therapy, how long and how much the concentration. And flow rate must be prescribed, oxygen concentration should be prescribed, all are important. Always think in mind about this oxygen toxicity also. So during this oxygen therapy, you have to evaluate the patient, the pattern of respiration and rate of respiration, color of the patient by seeing the nail beds, lips, conjunctiva and eyes, and look for the any CNS symptoms. Whether hypoxemia, they are having these symptoms, and hyperoxia, all are having these CNS symptoms. So confusion, disorientation, difficulty in cognition, you have to check in term, and you have to arterial oxygen concentration, you have to take the blood sample and do the ABG machine, doing the analysis, and always monitor with the pulse oximeter with oxygen saturation regularly. Regarding this oxygen therapy, patient is on oxygen therapy. So take home message today, we are coming to the end of the session. The point is oxygen is a prescribed drug. So prescribe it in the case sheet and choose the appropriate device in adequate oxygen concentration. That is FiO2, knowledge regarding that device and knowledge regarding the FiO2, the oxygen concentration delivered to the patient, we should have it. And the goal is to use the lowest possible FiO2 with adequate oxygenation to prevent the hazards of oxygen therapy. And knowledge regarding oxygen delivery device is essential and is the need of the hour in the COVID-19 pandemic period for any doctor is concerned. And the complication of oxygen should be kept in mind during the management. And